Hey guys, so today we're going to go over intermediate inheritance, also known as non-Mendelian genetics. So unfortunately, I assigned an ed puzzle yesterday and a lot of y'all had questions. So I thought I would go ahead and record my own video with my own notes, and I'll post up my notes and also do a separate video on how to work the problems. That way you can understand non-Mendelian genetics a little bit better. So if you did the ed puzzle yesterday, great. If you still have questions, go ahead and watch this video, and then that way you'll be able to answer the questions that I'm going to assign on non-Mendelian genetics. So what is intermediate inheritance? So intermediate inheritance is when you have a heterozygote and it doesn't work like having a dominant or a recessive trait. The heterozygote can actually be a mixture between the two, or it can show both traits. So it's not going to look like a homozygous dominant or a homozygous recessive. So we have three different forms of intermediate inheritance. So our first one is codominance. So we're going to talk about human blood type as well as cattle coat color. And then our second example is incomplete dominance. Okay, we're going to talk about flower color. And then we also have polygenic traits. So polygenic traits are going to be like your human eye color, your skin tone, even things like height and intelligence. Those are all polygenic. So our first one is codominance. So with codominance, if we remember our Mendelian genetics, normally you have a dominant and a recessive trait. For codominance, both alleles are going to express themselves fully. So if you have your dominant and your recessive, you're going to see both of them. So a good example is going to be human blood types. So in case you don't know, we have four different types of human blood types. We have type A, we have type B, type O, and then we have type AB. So what that means, if you're looking at a red blood cell, there's going to be proteins on the surface of that red blood cell. So if you have type A blood, then you have type A proteins. If you have type B blood, you have type B proteins. So in this case, our recessive allele for blood type is going to be type O. So type O doesn't have any proteins on them. So if we're looking at type A, okay, so type A is a dominant trait. So that means that if you have type A blood, you either have two dominant A alleles or you have a dominant A and a recessive O, because remember, O is the recessive blood type. Type B means that you have two dominant B alleles, so you're BB. Or you could have one dominant B and you could have your recessive O. Type O blood type doesn't have any protein. So in order to have type O blood, you have to have two recessive alleles. You have to get type O blood alleles from both of your parents. And you can see right here, usually when we write out our blood type, we use that letter I. So it's just a fancy, it's an acronym for immunoglobulin, which is what's found on red blood cells. And so we use capital I with a big A to show that we have a big A allele. Down here for type B, we use capital I with a big B to show that we have a B allele for type B blood. And then if you look down here at type O blood, you could see it's a little I, little I. Okay, so type O is recessive, so we're going to use the letters little I, little I. So I told you guys type AB is codominant. So that means that you have type A proteins and type B proteins on that little red blood cell. And so that's an example of codominance. That means that you had one parent that had type A blood and one parent that had maybe type B blood, and they gave both of those alleles. So they're going to be present together. Okay, so you're going to have type AB blood. And you could see right here, okay, so it's big I, big A, big I, big B to show that you have both of those alleles. And so when this person's reproducing during meiosis, they can give either a type A allele or a type B. So they can have children with type A blood and, children with type B blood. It depends on what the other parent is. All right, so another example is coat color in cattle. Okay, so you can have cows that are red coats, and so they would be homozygous for red. You can have cows that are white coats, and so they would be homozygous for white. But if you have a heterozygous cow between that red cow and that white cow, then you end up with a patchy color coat. And so that patchy color code is actually called a roan cow. So if you see any white cows that have like those red spots or brown spots, okay, those are called roan cattle. And so how we write that down, you can see that for our red cow, we're going to use big C for coat color. Okay, but because this is codominant, we're going to have big C with an R attached to that. That's going to say that the coat color is red. Over here for the white coat color, we're going to have a big C with a W. That shows that that coat color is white. So if you have a cow that's roan, you have to have big C, big R, big C, big W. So remember, the only way to have a red or a white coat color, you have to be homozygous. So you have to be big C, big R, big C, big R for a red coat, big C, big W, big C, big W for a white coat. Because if you have a heterozygous, that's when you have your roan cow. So in case you don't know, that's what a roan cow looks like. All right, so next we're going to talk about incomplete dominance. So incomplete dominance is a lot like codominance, but you're going to show a mixture between the traits. So you're not going to see both alleles. It's going to be a blending between the two. So you get a completely different phenotype. So for example, we like to use snapdragons or flowers because flowers do this a lot. And this was also in the Amoeba Sisters video from yesterday. So you could have white flowers, okay, or white snapdragons, and you can have red snapdragons. And so with this one, we're going to use two different letters. So we're going to use little r to indicate that this is a red snapdragon, little w for a white snapdragon. So in order to get a heterozygote, you have to cross a red snapdragon with a white snapdragon. And so you could see in your Punnett square, all of the offspring are RW. Well, RW is not going to show, red and white flowers. It's going to be a mixture between the two. So if you remember art class, you blend in red with white, you get pink. So you're going to have pink flowers. Okay, so all of this generation is going to be pink. All right. So what do I understand? Okay, what's the difference between codominance and incomplete dominance? Well, remember, codominance, okay, you're going to see both traits equally. So for example, if you had a black chicken and a white chicken and they mated, then you're going to have a black and white chicken, also known as a speckled chicken, which is this top chicken right here. Incomplete dominance is when you're blending those traits together. So if you have black and white and you mix them together, you're going to get a gray chicken, which is what this one is down here. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. So lastly, let's talk about polygenic traits. So poly just means many, and we know what genic means. We know it means genes. So these are traits that are affected by two or more pairs of alleles. So we know that we have 46 chromosomes. So we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. That makes 46. So on our chromosomes, we have a bunch of different genes for different traits on those chromosomes. So it could be on different chromosomes. It could be on the same chromosomes. You can have one chromosome. You can have multiple chromosomes. So a good example of this, let me move my little box. Okay, a good example of this is human eye color. So technically there's more than just these two chromosomes, but these are the two major ones. So if we're looking at human eye color, you actually have two major chromosomes that determine what color your eyes are. So normally we think of brown eyes and blue eyes. We usually think of brown eyes being dominant and blue eyes being recessive. Well, not only that, we can have, dark blue eyes, we can have light blue eyes, we can have really dark brown eyes, we can have light brown eyes. So if we're looking at our two chromosomes, we actually have chromosome 19 that determines the pigment color. So are you going to have brown pigment or are you going to have blue pigment? Okay, so chromosome 19 determines pigment color. After that, the amount of pigment is on chromosome 15, and that's how you get your different colors. So for example, let's say that on your chromosome 19, you have the gene for blue eyes, but then on chromosome 15, you have a gene to have dark blue, okay, because you're going to have more blue there. Let's say that on chromosome 19, you have pigment for blue eyes, but chromosome 15, okay, you have a gene for maybe light blue eyes with a little bit of brown, okay, and that's how you end up with your green eyes. So that's an example of polygenic traits. So height is another one like that. So the more height genes you have, the taller you are, the less height genes you have, the shorter you are. Intelligence actually works the same way. So you can actually have more intelligence genes. And that's usually why if you have two parents, for example, who are doctors or who are scientists, their children, their offspring, usually run in that same direction. Um, you can also have polygenic traits, for, coat color. So like you may see that, in some of your pets. So hopefully this helps you a little bit better. I'm going to record a second video that shows how to work these Punnett squares. That way you can answer the questions. So until next time, bye.